The reason it works, there is other research that shows that when you have been focused on a topic like this, let's say scarcity of opportunity, it becomes more important. It elevates your priorities about the concept of moving quickly and getting something that's scarce or rare or dwindling in availability. So that's how it works. It's also why it works, by elevating that principle that you have, that you're about to present, in mind in terms of its import, in terms of its priority, so that when people then encounter it, they have been readied to spend special time and attention on it.
Welcome, everybody, to the new e-commerce strategies webinar, where our special panel of experts will be sharing several actionable ideas and strategies to help you improve your website's online visibility, traffic, and sales. I'm Eileen Cartwright with the Cialdini Institute, and I will be the host and moderator for this webinar. Over the next 2 hours, our experts will be discussing psychology and behavioral design in business, covering 3 main topics: persuasion, authority, and social proof, along with real-world examples and strategies to show you how to leverage them in both search results and on your website. Our first guest is Dr. Robert Cialdini, Regents Professor Emeritus at Arizona State University and a renowned psychologist specializing in persuasion and marketing. Dr. Cialdini earned his PhD in social psychology from the University of North Carolina and has taught at various institutions, including Stanford University. He is acclaimed for his best-selling book, Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion, which has sold over 5 million copies worldwide, and outlines the key principles of effective persuasion. His profound impact on the field is honored through the Robert B. Cialdini Prize and his election to the National Academy of Sciences in 2019. Please welcome Dr. Robert Cialdini.
Hello, I'm very glad to be with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Cialdini. Our next guest is Scott Brandley, founder and CEO of Shopper Approved, one of the oldest, largest, and most trusted online review platforms in the world. Established in 2010, Shopper Approved has helped thousands of e-commerce websites around the world to collect over 200 million reviews and counting. Scott is the founder and CEO of TrustGuard, one of the longest-running website security companies online, and has helped to protect thousands of websites and millions of consumers from online threats for over 18 years. He is also co-author of the breakthrough new book, Reputation King: How to Become the Most Trusted Online Brand in Your Industry. Welcome, Scott. It's so nice to have you here.
Great to be here.
Our final guest is DJ Sprague, CMO of Shopper Approved. DJ has a rich background in enterprise sales, marketing, advertising, and reputation management, working with major brands like Hyundai, Toyota, JD Power and Associates, NASCAR, and the Utah Jazz. DJ has earned several accolades, including Speaker of the Year from the Executive Committee. He holds a master's degree in integrated marketing communications with top honors and has multiple certifications in behavioral design and internet marketing. He is also co-author of Reputation King. Welcome, DJ. We're so happy you could join us today.
Thanks, Eileen. Really excited to be here.
Well, let's get started. We have a lot of exciting things to cover, but before we get too far, Bob, can you please explain what behavioral design is and how it applies to business?
Behavioral design is the process of structuring, that is, designing messages and images that include underlying principles of behavior, of persuasion, that move people in our directions, that cause them to be more likely to say yes, to lend assent, to make a decision or a choice in our favor. Now, that goal is fostered by the principles of influence that I cover in my book, Influence. There are 7 of them, and they're designed to increase the likelihood of assent to our messages by including one or another of these 7 principles into your message. The principles are reciprocation, liking, unity, commitment and consistency, scarcity. But the 2 that we're going to focus on, especially today, are authority and social proof, because those are the principles that are most related to reputation management. And that's an overarching context for this webinar.
Thank you for explaining that. As we go through this webinar, Bob, Scott, and DJ would like you to consider the 3 critical conversion questions that consumers have when buying online, which are, can I trust this website? Can I trust this product? And can I trust this transaction? Now, you probably think that these questions only apply once a potential customer has landed on your website, but they actually start in the search. Dr. Cialdini calls this pre-suasion. Bob and DJ, I'm going to turn it over to you now to explore this further.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eiley. Before we get started with what is persuasion, I just wanted to thank you personally, Bob, because back in 1990, 91, when I first started in enterprise sales with Eastman Kodak, my sales manager recommended that I read 2 books. One was How to Win Friends and Influence People. The other one, of course, was Influence. And of course, the version I had was the original 1984 version. But I attribute my enterprise sales success and winning the top sales awards from Eastman Kodak, honestly, to the core principles, the soft skills that are taught in Influence. And I know there's been a lot of research and talk these days around people really need to hone their soft skills. And I couldn't agree more. That's really what it comes down to in terms of relationships, communications, sales, marketing. And so I just wanted to give you a shout out for that. It's also interesting to note that just in the past year, we have also become certified coaches, certified practitioners through the Cialdini Institute. And we've also become the world's first Diamond Cialdini certified marketing agency, which is really, really exciting. We've also written this book, Reputation King, with your cover quote, Bob, and we really appreciate that. And we also now have a course on reputation management within the Cialdini Institute. And if that's not enough, I'm really looking forward to next month, where I get to keynote and share the stage with you at the Influence Amplified Conference in Phoenix. And if you're curious about that, I think you should look that up online. It's going to be a really, really exciting 2-day immersion experience in behavioral design. So just wanted to thank you for all of that and the 30 plus years of working with your principles books, and read them all, and they're fantastic. So moving on, Bob, you wrote the book Persuasion, which is another wonderful book. And if you haven't read that, that's a great asset. But can you explain the principles and how they work to ethically influence decision-making through the process of persuasion?
You know, what I said about the book Influence itself is that we have these 7 principles that research shows, if they are included in a message, significantly increases the likelihood that people will agree with your offer or your persuasive appeal. Persuasion is different in that it doesn't involve what you put into your message, the principles you put there. It involves how you place those principles before the message is even delivered, in order to influence people's receptivity to the message they haven't yet encountered. It sounds like magic. How do you get people to be receptive to your message before they've even encountered it, before they know what's in it? How would you do that? It's not magic. It's solid science. There's evidence that shows that if you can arrange for people to experience one or another of these principles of influence that drive their behavior before they experience a message that includes that principle, they will have been readied for it in a very favorable way. They will have been primed to be open to the message, to process it more deeply, and to follow it more fully. So that's the key. It moves people by arranging for them to be sympathetic to your core features before they even experience them, before you deliver your message itself.
Great. So in your book, you talk about sequence, you talk about context, environment. How do you think that plays out in terms of an online search environment? So you're in Google, you're looking for a product or a brand or a solution, the answer to a question, and you have an environment, you have context. How does persuasion work within that environment?
So a perfect example is what you see about that organization, about that product or service online in various kinds of sites, star ratings and evaluations and Q&A options and so on that you might have. Before you even decide to move into an exploration of the merits of that case, you arrange for people's minds to be attuned with the true principles of influence that might be warranted in that situation, so that they've been readied for it. That's the key, to make them sympathetic to the message before it's delivered, so they're more open to the idea in the first place.
Okay, great. So would it be fair to say then, Bob, that persuasion is essentially pre-framing by creating the optimal environment, context, and sequence for ethical influence to take place in the secondary and tertiary touch points or contacts?
Exactly. I mean, when I first wrote my book, Influence, I infiltrated a lot of different influence programs, sales programs, marketing, advertising, public relations, and so on. And I noticed that the top scorers were not those who spent the majority of their time structuring the message that they were delivering. They did that, of course, but what separated them was what they did before they delivered that message, to put at top of consciousness of the audience members the features, the principles that they were going to touch on subsequently. That is what differentiated them from their inferior counterparts, actually.
Makes sense. Context is everything, as we say. So that makes sense. Thank you very much.
Well, I can give you a couple of examples of how this works. For example, trust is one of the things that, if that's there first, that's an enormously powerful persuasive asset to change. And there's a study that showed, for example, that the single trait that people most want to see in their interactions with others, their various relationships, can be business relationships, it can be friendships, it can be romantic relationships, it can be relationships with a neighbor. They want trustworthiness first. The most thing that they want is trustworthiness. So if we can arrange for them to have trust in what we are going to present before we present it, we have already a big step forward in moving people in that direction. I can give you an example. So, for example, a few years ago, Norwegian Cruise Line had a special program, a holiday sale, where any of their previous cruise visitors, the customers, were given a special discount on any cruise during that holiday season, the end of the year holiday season, but it had a limited time. And when you went into the email that everybody received, there was a ticking down clock, a digital clock, as to how quickly you could move in or how quickly you needed to move in before the offer disappeared. Half of the people got that email just like that. The others got in the subject line of the email 2 ticking down clock emojis. They were put in mind of the limited availability, the dwindling opportunity of this. In other words, the principle of scarcity, right? They got 15% more cruisers, more sales, if there were ticking clock emojis in the subject line that persuaded people to be focused on limited availability and dwindling availability. That's the sort of thing that can occur online simply. It's costless and it works. The reason it works, there is other research that shows that when you have been focused on a topic like this, let's say scarcity of opportunity, it becomes more important. It elevates your priorities about the concept of moving quickly and getting something that's scarce or rare or dwindling in availability. So that's how it works. It's also why it works, by elevating that principle that you have, that you're about to present, in mind in terms of its import, in terms of its priority, so that when people then encounter it, they have been readied to spend special time and attention on it.
Love that summary and those examples. Those are great and very visual. One can really see how those examples of limited supply, limited time, urgency, motivation, combined with trust, really does drive more conversions, more engagements, more revenue ethically. So thank you very much for that. We're now going to talk a little bit about moving into the next subject, which is what is reputation management, because now we've created the context of persuasion, and persuasion is essentially a subset of reputation management. So our definition of online reputation management is closely related to both persuasion and influence. So taking both of your books, Persuasion and Influence, you get reputation management, because creating and managing your reputation is the process of pre-framing how your brand is seen and perceived at every touch point. So in our world, that means displaying your ratings and reviews across the web, not only on your website, but on all the relevant open review platforms and in paid and organic search results. It also means owning as many of the top search results as possible and being seen by your audience as a helpful, trustworthy brand. So that's our interpretation or definition of online reputation management. And that's really how we went about writing our book, Reputation King, based on that premise. That would be a real high-level summary of conceptually what we're trying to do with our strategies on Reputation King and the website reputationking.com. So we're going to talk today about 3 pillars of online persuasion. Pillar 1 is leveraging as many modalities as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That means seller ratings, product reviews, video reviews, and Q&A. Pillar 2 is appearing in as many strategic locations as possible. That would mean Google, Bing, Yahoo, Facebook, YouTube, and review platforms. And number 3 would be ranking in search as high and as often as possible. So in advertising, we call that first middle image, FMI, and frequency. So that would mean featured snippets, paid positions, organic positions. People also ask, shopping results, and video results. If you can do all 3 of those, you're going to dominate the search results, and you're going to have a highly trusted, highly visible, credible, authoritative brand. So now we're going to flip it over to Scott, and Scott's going to talk about what does online persuasion look like.
Awesome. Thanks, DJ. So this is really exciting because we're combining the principles and teachings that we've learned from Dr. Cialdini over almost 40 years, right? Since you wrote your first book.
Yes.
That's amazing. And it's all still just as timely today as it was when you first wrote it.
Scott,
Go ahead.
some people ask me, your book Influence is sometimes called the Bible of online marketing, but you wrote it before there was online marketing. How could you look forward and foresee its impact on a platform that didn't exist? And I always have to say, I didn't look ahead. I looked inside. I looked at the factors that have always driven behavior change and choice, no matter what platform, throughout our history as a species. So the platforms can change, but these principles won't, and they will continue to drive ascent wherever we locate them.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight. I love that it does work for online because that's why we have a business, right? Because of the principles that you teach. And one of the great things about doing this webinar is we get to learn from you and pull in all of those principles from influence and persuasion. But because DJ and I work on the front lines every day, and we've been doing this for almost 2 decades, we actually get to show you what it looks like in the real world. So it's pretty cool, the two worlds coming together. So
what I love about it is that you are data people. You have evidence. You have scientifically derived evidence, not just anecdotes and recommendations that come off out of the top of your head or someplace lower, right?
Right. Yep. Okay, let's jump in here. So the first thing I want to show you, this is one of our clients, and they're a large client. If I said their name, you would know exactly who they are, but they've collected over 1.5 million reviews with Shopper Approved. But when you do a search online for their brand, it's a mixed bag, right? You can see that they have different reviews and different number of ratings online. So what that does is when somebody goes online to see if this brand is trustworthy, they get, they come up with this average calculation in their head, and it's probably around a 3 to a 3.2. And their confidence in the brand is mixed, and their probability of buying is low, right? So this is an example of how not to be persuaded to buy something. So show the next one. So this is also a Shopper Approved client. Now, they use a tool that we created called Review Destinations, where we actually, once a customer buys, we send the customer to different review platforms to leave their review. Now, what that does is that normalizes their reputation across the web in an ethical way. And so you can see here, if you look, if I'm a client or a customer and I go searching for this product online or this company, I'm going to see a normalized reputation across the web, which increases the trust that I have in that brand. And so my perception of that brand, if I averaged all those reviews out of my head, it's probably going to be around a 4.6. My confidence in the brand is going to be very high, and the probability of me buying from that brand is very high before I go to the website, which is all about persuasion before I get to the site and I'm persuaded to buy it. So this is another one of our clients, and I wanted to show you a real current life example here. So this is from March of 2023. This is a $2.3 billion company. And they came to us and they're like, okay, we have a really bad rating on Trustpilot, 1.3. We're like, okay, we can help you with that. Let's plug you into our tool and let's send some of your clients to leave a review on Trustpilot after they buy. So within 6 or 7 months, so I think it was April to November, we sent some of their clients after they bought to Trustpilot to leave a review. and their ratings went from 1.3 to 4.1. So they went from one of the lowest rated companies in their industry to the highest rated company in their industry on Trustpilot in just a matter of a few months. And I mean, can you just imagine if you went there to search this company in March of 2023 to today, which actually this slide is outdated, it's now a 4.2. So your trust and your confidence in that brand is going to go up considerably. And this is what it looks like if you did a search in Google. We wanted to kind of give you a picture of if you're doing a search, you're going to see something like this, right? So this is different review platforms showing, between 4.5 and 4.8 stars. But this is what happens when you send your customers to different review platforms after they buy. And the reason this is important is because what we found is consumers triangulate your reputation online. Let's go to the next slide.
I just wanted to mention too, Scott, that it's been studied and statistically quantified that the ideal review rating is between 4.1 and 4.7.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why it's important that we get that previous client at least to a 4.1. Consumers don't really trust brands with a 5-star rating across the web. They assume it's going to be gamed, manipulated, fake. So 4.7 at the high end, 4.1 at the low end is pretty much that sweet spot.
Yeah. Well, and I should also point out that these are completely 100% ethical ratings and reviews from actual customers that have made a purchase from a brand and were just invited to leave a review. There's no incentives or anything, and they can rate whatever they want, whatever their experience is, right? So, okay. So what we did, we love doing surveys to consumers. And so we asked consumers, because we wanted to know how important Pre-suasion was and triangulating if people triangulate a company's reputation before they buy. So we asked some questions and we sent out a survey. So the first one was, when researching a company online, do you check ratings and reviews on multiple review sites? Well, 66% or 2/3 of online consumers say yes. That's important. If you're an online merchant, you need to know that, because if you have bad ratings on some of the review platforms out there, you're in trouble. You're going to be like company A that I showed, right? That had the mixed bag. Next slide. So then we asked, well, if a company has a good overall rating on one site, but a bad overall rating on another one, which one do you trust, right? Is the glass half empty or half full? So we were pleasantly surprised to find that people give companies the benefit of the doubt if there's two platforms, right? So 69%. And so then we asked, well, what happens if they have a good rating on one site, but a bad rating on two sites? Next slide, DJ. So what happened is it flipped, right? So if you have two sites with bad ratings and one with good, 2/3 are going to give the negative reviews the benefit of the doubt. And that goes to social proof, which we'll talk a little bit more about.
I want to point out too that this study had a 98% confidence factor. So very statistically significant, not a small sample size.
All right, so I wanted to show you some real examples of Pre-suasion with ratings and reviews. So now we're going to switch to a different modality. We're going to talk about Q&A. So when it comes to Q&A, we wanted to see what consumers thought was important, especially in search. So this is another survey we did, and we asked, would a website that answered your questions and showed up at the top of Google search results increase the perceived credibility of that website? And 80% said yes. So then we asked, if you asked a product question in Google and the answer came up at the top of the search results, how likely are you to visit that website? Because there's a difference between just thinking that's a trusted answer and actually going to the site. So 73% said they were highly or extremely likely to go and visit that website. And that makes sense. This is actually a chart from Backlinko. They did a study with looking at millions of search results online, and they found that 69.1% of the clicks go to the top 5 search listings, right? Which then goes back to that pillar of persuasion, why it's so important to get as many listings as you can in the top of the search results. Because people trust ratings or people trust listings that are listed at the top of Google, because Google only shows the most trusted sites at the top.
Thanks, Scott. That was a great example of what that looks like and why it's so important to be in the top of the search results. Now we're going to talk about what persuasion examples actually look like online. So there's 3 principles here. We call it the persuasion power play. Principle 1 is you want to get at the top search positions. As you saw in that last graph, the top 5 get 69% of the clicks. So obviously you want to be as high as possible. Principle 2 is you want to get as many listings as possible on page 1, preferably as many as you can in the top 5 positions. So for example, you could get a paid, you could get an organic or a paid in a featured snippet, or a people also ask, or a paid in a position 2 or 3 organic, or shopping, etc. And principle 3 is depending on the search query. If, for example, they're looking for brand reviews or product reviews, you want to make sure that those search results include the review stars in those listings, because again, that's social proof and persuasion. So this is an example, and we're calling this new because this is fairly new for us to be able to send review stars for both seller ratings and product reviews to Bing. We've always been able to do it for Google, but we're one of 2 in the world that can do this for Bing and Google at the same time. So there's your seller ratings showing up in the ads. This is a organic listing, which is powered by the Shopper Approved Review Certificate, which is a search optimized microsite for every client where their seller ratings, product reviews, and video reviews are housed. And then those are fed into the organic and paid search results. This is a wonderful example of a Google Shopping listing. And what you see here is a combination of product reviews and seller ratings. The top quality store icon there is from Google. That's a Google top quality store logo. And that comes from meeting several Google criteria, one of which, and probably the most important, is collecting enough quality rankings for your store through a Google review partner. So really what you have here is 3 trust signals. You have the seller ratings, you have the product reviews, and you have the Google top quality store ranking. This is a fun example. This is really a niche product for a niche audience, and it's an automatic gate opener for rural farmers, et cetera. And this top video review started with 284 reviews, but now it has 573 reviews in just a year. The second one from Dennis had 348 views in 4 months and now has 1,000. So collectively, they have almost 1,600 views in a year for a super niche product in a super niche market. It just goes to show you that video reviews do very, very well in terms of search engine optimization, engagement, and clicks. And this is another way to obviously capture those top search positions.
Well, and the cool thing,
this is another new.
The cool thing about that, DJ, is that top video is just this random farmer guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Really
he's
random.
got his plaid shirt on. He's got a big bushy beard, and you know, hundreds of people have watched that video and saw him put up this gate thing
Opener.
But he's their client, and he's showing them how much he likes their product. I mean, that's the best type of persuasion you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. The videos are very, very convincing, very engaging. This is a new product, and this is AI-assisted Q&A. It's also automatically search optimized Q&A. So this allows you to use AI to automatically recommend new questions and answers from the content on your product pages, your Google Search Console, and marketplaces selling the same product, allowing you to scale a lot of content very quickly, very easily, obviously through the assistance of artificial intelligence, which is then automatically optimized for search results, oftentimes hitting that featured snippet position or the top 3 organic search results. This is an example of a client that's using this tool. And as you can see here, there's a very long tail, bottom funnel, high purchase intent, very specific search query. How long will an Olympian heater run on a 20-pound propane tank? You can't get more specific than that. So here's the answer from the client showing up in that featured snippet. And this client has said that when people use the Q&A tool and engage with the Q&A tool, they convert an average of 75%, which is amazing because the average product page converts at 7%. Amazon Prime members convert at 74%. So it's really a very, very high conversion rate, obviously. This is an example of our own website. We use the Q&A tool ourselves. And as you can see here, we've captured the featured snippet with the question and answer, and the people also ask with a different variant. So many times you can get 1 or 2, sometimes even 3 positions on page 1 for the same question. So now we're going to open up to Q&A.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, thank you for doing this. So I'm not sure who this question is going to be directed to, but for sure the Pre-suasion 3 principles sound really good, but they also sound incredibly expensive, right? Saying we want the top spots and all the spots and all the time, ideal, but just curious what your thoughts are in terms of how do you do this cost effectively? Is there any psychological way like that we could do that better?
Wonderful question, Uzma. Thank you for that, because obviously that's what everybody would think. So let's start out with one way to get in the top search results for search queries is through search optimized Q&A. And what that does is, as an example with RV upgrades, it's much easier to show up in the top search results for a very, very specific long tail search term than it would be, for example, to say, who sells RV furnaces? That's going to be a much more competitive search term. But you're asking something very, very specific and very granular, what we call a long tail search term, that is automatically optimized through the tool, then it takes care of itself. So you can get a lot of long tail, which is going to be 5, 7, 8 word search terms, much easier and faster than you would what we call a short tail search term, which would be 2 or 3 words. Those are always more competitive. So that's one way you can do it very cost effectively, because it's just the tool. You don't have to spend a lot of money. The other way is through ratings and reviews. So a Google review partner syndicates reviews to Google and Bing. And so when you do a search for abc.com reviews, then your reviews are going to come up in the search results through the search optimized certificate where the reviews live, as well as your own website, because we always advocate that clients build a dedicated review page or subfolder on their website to house those reviews. So the subfolder would be titled reviews. So you've got abc.com/reviews. So that subfolder or that page is going to be optimized automatically for that search term. Of course, the same for products. So when you have reviews for your products and your brand or website that are through a Google and Bing partner, they're going to be optimized for search. So you can get those search results as well. And then, of course, Google Shopping, when you have reviews, and especially if you have the top quality store badge, those are going to come up on page 1 as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great question.
All right. Well, our next question is from Tatiana.
Hello to everybody. I don't see myself. I don't know how to switch on the video.
That's okay. You can just go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. It's a lot of new things. I have a question to Dr. Cialdini. And I have a question about presenting ourselves on our website. In one of our Q&A sessions, Dr. Cialdini said that there is a study which says that video presentation, video welcome from the owner or the company, it increases the trust and increases conversion. At the same time, you do not recommend us to present our credential ourselves, and you recommend that somebody else present us. So my question is, what is the best way to present ourselves during this small video presentation? What we should say and what we should never say during this presentation? Thank you very much.
Hello, Tatiana. Yes, you make a good point. What I was talking about in regard to not presenting yourself is never present yourself in person, in a face-to-face interaction, because then you lose credibility. But in an online presentation or a written presentation, you don't have other people to present you. So the best way to do it under those circumstances is a video presentation. Now, what I also say, and we'll get to this later when we talk about the authority principle, you can enhance persuasively your credentials and your expertise if before you even speak, you have testimonials from others about your successes, the quality of what you offer, and who you are, and so on. So before people even get to your video presentation, you should have at the top testimonials that credentialize you before you have to make that presentation about yourself. That way, it's not that you are the only person who is providing this, but if you have to provide this in online manner, I would recommend video over just a written review of your resume.
Okay, thank you very much for your reply. Thank you, because I was wondering if I should mention my credential or I should not do it at all, because sometimes you are tempted to talk about your achievements, but somehow it creates a distance with your client. So it's very important to find this middle line between this, not to see as a bolstering person.
Well, you can also provide a written description, and then which certifies what you have already done, your experience, your expertise, your credentials, and then you can offer a video introduction to the site and what you have. So in that way, the written part is less face-to-face. It's more authentic, and then follow it with something more conversational and introducing yourself without specifying all of your credentials.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.